Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've done a video, so it feels really strange to be in front of the camera again. For those of you that don't know, I have recently had a baby boy, and yeah, it's been a whirlwind of emotions. But yeah, I thought today there was quite a few of you that wanted to know my birth story, so I thought I would share this with you. So before we get into the video, if you're new here, hi, my name is Christina. I do new videos every week, so please hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos. Now, I loved watching these videos when I was pregnant. I just wanted to know anything and everything about people's births. But quick disclaimer, this video probably isn't going to be a positive birth video. I had quite a difficult time, and also if you haven't been following me on Instagram, sorry, that's the baby. If you haven't been following me on Instagram, I have actually been going through what is called postpartum psychosis. I'm going to be doing a whole video on that, because that's a whole video in itself, going into depth with that. This one is going to be all about my birth story. So, let's get stuck into it. So, the 12th of April of this year, 2019, I went to the toilet and my mucus plug had fallen out. It's this kind of like gooey consistency, and yeah, it came out, and I was like Googling it, kind of being like, oh my god, what does this mean? Does this mean I'm going into labour soon? And 9 times out of 10 you do go into labour. However, it can be 2 weeks after that you go into labour. It doesn't mean you're going into labour, but for me it did mean it, because I went to my nan and granddad's the next day, the same day, and just kind of done a few walks and tried to get things moving along. I then went to bed, and the following morning, so the 13th, the Saturday, I woke up at 6 o'clock and my waters had broke. So that was a shock, and I got really kind of nervous at that point. We went to the hospital, because if your waters break, you're supposed to go to the hospital to 1, check it, and 2, get examined in case there is infection and so on. So they checked it, they confirmed that yes, it was my waters, because I just kept going with water, it just kept coming out. And yeah, we went to the hospital in the morning, so it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. We went there, they checked it, it was all okay. They said go home and wait for your contractions, basically. If contractions still hadn't started at 24 hours, then I would have to go back anyway. So we went home, and by 9 o'clock in the morning, so it was only 3 hours difference, my contractions started. They were quite light. I thought they were quite manageable, and I kind of just went through the day. I had a contraction here and there, and it just felt like a tightening sensation. I think I actually went to sleep in the day for a few hours. We watched a couple of movies, and then by 9 o'clock that night, they started to become more and more regular, and they were every 3 minutes, and they were really strong. So it wasn't actually my decision, it was Craig's decision to go into the hospital and get checked out. So we went into the hospital, we left. That car journey, and everyone says this, that car journey from home to the hospital is torture, because you're just like, oh my god, so uncomfortable, and yeah, it just wasn't nice. But anyway, we got there, they checked, and I was actually 5 to 6 centimetres dilated. So I was so happy. I was like, wow, I've done this far without any, any problems, and the pain wasn't as bad as I thought the pain could have been. And I was like, I can do this. I'm really strong. I had so much power. But when they did that sweep and checked me, I was like, oh my god, this actually hurts. That the sweep is what hurt me. Or when they check how far you're dilated, then they put that hand up there. That really hurt. But yeah, so then we went to the birthing centre. And I just carried on dilating. It was every 3 minutes. I kept dilating. No, I wasn't dilating, sorry. I kept having contractions. And then after a few hours, they checked me again, and I had actually stayed at 5 centimetres. Nothing had changed. So I was really disappointed. I'd done a few more hours. I'd done probably, let's say, 14 hours of contractions, and I had just stayed still. So it was really disheartening. I remember she'd done the sweep. She said I was 5 centimetres, and I just burst out crying because I was like, oh my God, oh, I can't believe that I haven't done any more. I'm exhausted already. So anyway, we carried on. They also said because my waters had broken and how far along I had my contractions, I wasn't allowed a water birth. So at this point I was like, okay, give me the gas and air. So I had the gas and air, and I don't think that done me quite any good, but I just used it every time I had a contraction. If anything, it was just nice to bite down on something, so I kept biting down on the gas and air suction mouthpiece. After after that point, everything kind of gets a bit blurry. I remember being on the bed at one point, and she done another sweep, and I had gone down to 4 centimetres. So I don't know whether they got it wrong at first, but I don't know how I can go up and then back down centimetres, but I was 4 centimetres. By this point, I literally felt like crying. It had been like 15, 16 hours. And so I decided, so they told me that I had to go down to the labour ward. At this point, I felt like crying because I was just like, I've done this long, I haven't dilated as much as I hoped I had. I'm going down to the labour ward, which I really didn't want to do. I didn't have a water birth, which I really wanted to do. Everything was just falling apart for me. So I went down, and when I went down, I just kept saying, fuck it, I want the drugs, give me the epidural now because I can't go any longer. I was exhausted by this point. I had done all the walking I could do. I exhausted everything that I could. I went down to the labour ward, and then basically got the epidural. It took about an hour because I had to wait half an hour for them to come for an anaesthetist. I probably butchered that name. To come down and actually do the epidural, and then it takes 20 minutes for it to kick in anyway. Here's my little bundle of joy. This is Keelan. Mwah. Right, so where was I? Okay. So yeah, I had gone down to the labour ward, and yeah, it wasn't kicking in, and I was still in pain in my epidural. So, and they had this like little cold spray thing that they test on your legs, and I could feel everything. I was like, it's not doing anything. Like, is this supposed to be my pain relief because it's not working? Anyway, it wasn't strong enough, so they topped me up with some more epidural, and you get this little green button to kind of say that, like, when it not runs out, but I think it's like every half hour you can top yourself up, and I was pressing that every half an hour. I was like pressing it because by this point it was like 24 hours and I was still in so much pain. Oh God, I keep getting interrupted. Right, let's finish this story. So where was I? Yeah, I just kept topping it up, and yeah, just kept going. By this point it had been 24 hours and I'm not kidding, I was exhausted. I was so tired, and nothing was happening. Also, what I failed to say at the beginning when I done a birthing, when I was in the birthing suite, she also popped so you have 2 sets of waters, so one was gone but there was another one, and basically she popped my waters as well whilst I was in the birthing unit. She also had to put a catheter in because his little head was blocking my bladder, so I couldn't go to the toilet at all. So anyway, when I had the epidural, the same thing happened again. They done another sweep and they actually said that I was 4 centimetres. So how I went from 5 to 6 down to 4, I do not know. You think that's funny? Do you think that's funny? But that was what happened. I literally felt like crying so bad. It was so upsetting that I was only 4 centimetres. I felt like such a failure because I was in so much pain and I was only 4 centimetres, and you're supposed to be in more pain the more dilated you get, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. After about 30 hours, I just could not handle it. They put a catheter in. I mean, they put the catheter in when you have an epidural anyway. But yeah, I had to have the catheter in, and he was blocking my bladder, so I wasn't going to the toilet at all. So that was quite painful as well. There was a point in the labour where his heartbeat went down. I don't know whether that was just because my monitor had slipped. That's what Craig thinks, but I'm not sure. I don't know whether his heartbeat actually went down or if it just slipped, but that was quite scary because all the doctors come rushing in, and you've got all these doctors around you, and they're looking up you, around you, in you, to see what's going on. So they put a little kind of like clip on his head, because you could see his head. His head was coming down. So basically, I wasn't opening up, but his head was still coming down. So he was getting stuck, and it was bloody painful because it was like he basically had fell down. The waters breaking basically made his head fall down. But I wasn't dilated enough for him. Anyway, cut a long story short, it got to 40 hours, and the doctor basically said, we can give you 2 more hours or you can have the cesarean now. So at this point I did not think 2 hours was going to make any difference, so I went for the cesarean. Then I think I would have ended up with the cesarean anyway, but yeah, so we went for the cesarean, and this is what got me really, because it was the scariest moment of my life, one of the scariest moments. And basically they come in and everything moves so fast. They gave me a letter, and it basically said, if this happens, we're not reliable. You might lose your womb, you might lose your all this stuff could happen. You need to sign it. And it basically felt like I was signing my life away. It was so scary. But yeah, so basically I need a drink. So basically it felt like I was signing my life away. I signed the papers, and then they literally whizzed me to the operation room, and they top you up with an extra anaesthetic, and then they just go for it basically. And Craig had to go and get changed so he could come into the room. So I was on my own at first, and I was just feeling so much panic. I was shaking all over. The epidural makes you shake anyway, but I was literally terrified. The adrenaline was real. It was so strong. I was so scared. I realised that they was about to cut me open. So yeah, I was really scared basically. And had the cesarean. They pulled him out. Heard him cry, and that was magical. However, and I will talk about this in my postpartum psychosis video, I did not feel that rush of love that people tell you that you have. I think it was because I had the cesarean. I was terrified in the moment, and yeah, I didn't really want to hold him straight away. Craig was the first one to hold him. I didn't hold him until I was out of the operation room and into like the recovery room, and then I breastfed him, and I was just exhausted. At this point I was exhausted. I didn't know what was going on. I was delirious. I don't actually remember holding him. I don't actually remember what happened. I only have snippets of memory. But yeah, I will talk about that more in my next video. But yeah, so it's not, for me, my labour was not a happy and wonderful experience. It was scary, it was painful, and it was long. But I thought I would tell you my story anyway, because it might help someone else out there. You know, you've got to be prepared for all sorts of things in labour. You cannot plan it. I am such a planner, and I was trying to plan everything to the T. I was like, I'm going to have a water birth, I'm going to have this, it's going to go this way, it's not going to take too long, it's blah 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 blah, and it just did not work that way. And because of also my mindset, that's what led me to problems in the coming weeks. But I will talk more about that in my psychosis video. So definitely subscribe so that you don't miss out on that video. That's going to be a long one. And yeah, but regardless of how my labour went, I'm now so happy to have this little angel in my life. Mwah! Look at him, he's so cute. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, share it and subscribe. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye guys. Bye.